Do any of you remember Casper the Friendly Ghost? That nonconformist among ghosts who would prefer to make friends with people rather than scare them? Well, Jesus is doing just that here in today's gospel. He's being like Casper. He and his disciples are separated because Jesus goes off for some quiet time to pray. By evening, the disciples' boat was far out in the sea, yet Jesus, probably having finished his prayer, or maybe when he realized it was not a calm night, decided to go and check things out. He goes and stands alone on the shore, and he sees them. Now, that in and of itself is a miracle. Remember, there are no lights on or around the lake in those days, and they were said to be pretty far out. With the wind so much against them, Jesus somehow knows his friends are simply not capable of reaching their destination, of getting to their goal. But not only does Jesus see them, he walks on the water and comes toward them. Mark even tells us the time, the fourth watch, the time between 3 a.m. and 6 a.m., when night will soon give way to day. Mark further adds a rather odd aside, don't you think? By reporting that Jesus meant to pass them by. Now, why would Jesus do that? Curious. Here, however, we get a glimpse of how Mark is trying to again tell us of Jesus' divinity. Not only, as we saw in yesterday's gospel of the multiplication of the loaves and the fish, does Jesus provide manna, food from heaven like God did for the Israelites in the desert. Not only does Jesus walk on water, alluding to God's parting of the Red Sea or the Sea of Reeds, since the sea can never stand in God's way. But here too, with this little phrase about Jesus meaning to pass them by, Mark again alludes to the book of Exodus, when Moses asked to see God's glory, and God says, I will pass by. For remember, no one has ever seen God or can see the face of God. God needs to simply pass by. So here it is, Mark telling us that it is only in Jesus can the Father be revealed. But the disciples, instead of seeing Jesus' divinity, see a ghost. They cry out. They were all terrified. Then once again, we glimpse Jesus' divinity when he tells them, take courage. It is I. Do not be afraid. In assuring his disciples, it is I, Jesus reveals nothing less than the revelation of God's name to Moses. Eya Asha Eya in Hebrew. I am who am. Or in a contemporary idiom, I've got you. And indeed, Jesus does have them. Jesus does not come to scare them, but rather the winds die down, leaving them astounded by the entire experience. Now, they wouldn't be so astounded, according to Mark, had they understood the incident of the loaves. They should have seen in that miracle Jesus providing for their needs, but didn't. On the contrary, their hearts were hardened. Again, an allusion to the book of Exodus. Remember? Pharaoh's heart too was hardened. Not until Jesus' death and resurrection, therefore, will the disciples truly see and understand that with Jesus arrives a new Exodus. For not even the waters of death can conquer God or God's love. So among the many messages we can take away from today's beautiful readings is that Jesus is divine. He is God's self-revelation, the incarnation of God, revealing to us the ways of God. We are therefore never to be scared or afraid of God. For Jesus shows us in this miracle story that he is not a ghost, not even a friendly ghost like Casper, but rather God is love. And that although it may sometimes take until the fourth watch, Jesus will come to us to calm the winds of life whenever they toss us about, keeping us from our destination or goal. So perhaps today, if you are a bit scared or afraid, take heart. Open yourself to the love of God, knowing that Jesus will surely come into your boat and say, "Take courage. It is I. Do not be afraid."